I'm just gonna give it another couple minutes just because we only have
Yeah.
one person in the waiting
Yep.
room, so just
That's
we'll
fine.
chill right till 6. See if a couple more people come in.
As we get to spring, we find more and more people want to watch this on the recording at like 9 at night instead,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't argue with them.
No, yeah, it's like this time of the year, it's hard to get students to participate in anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I I understand.
All right, I'm gonna let our two guests in since it's 6 o'clock, and we'll just go ahead and I'll introduce you. Okay?
Sounds great.
Cool. Awesome. All right, welcome, folks. Mark, go ahead. Please go ahead and introduce yourself to the group.
Hello, I'm Mark Salisbury. Welcome to the Pathways Planning and Insights webinar series and our fifth and final webinar on all the ways that you can make sure that the educational path your student chooses after high school will enable your student to enter young adulthood with the financial flexibility to succeed in whatever they choose to do. Tonight's webinar, titled DIY College, will outline all of the ways that you can reduce your costs by accumulating and combining college credits from multiple sources, as well as all the ways you can find other entities, other organizations, to pay for some or all of your college degree. Now, before we start, I want to thank NextGen Personal Finance for supporting this webinar series. And I want to thank Maddie for being here and managing all of the fun that we've had with this webinar series, the excitement of Zoom. You can find access to each of the audio channels where our interpreters are providing this presentation in Spanish, in Mandarin, and Cantonese. It's in the Zoom control panel at the bottom of your screen. Look for the icon marked interpretation that looks like a globe. Thanks to all of our interpreters tonight, Sean, Carly, and Leanne. I really appreciate your help. Now, throughout this series, we've talked about numerous different ways that you can pull levers to impact your college costs. First, you can identify the right price range for you and stay within that price range. Second, you can optimize your approach to make the most of the financial aid system. Third, you can take advantage of scholarships and loans and make sure that you don't end up getting taken advantage by them instead. Fourth, you can negotiate or appeal and use your leverage to bring your final price down even further. And tonight, we're going to talk about the final lever that you can pull, where you can build part of your college degree yourself and take advantage of a growing set of alternatives to pay for it. Before I start, it's important to highlight some fundamental truths and misconceptions about college. Although it might seem a little radical to talk about DIY college, do-it-yourself college, the fact is that the student has always been the primary builder of his or her own growth. 60 years of research on college students tells us that success in and after college comes from what the student does with the raw materials. Yes, The college offers the raw materials in the form of learning experiences in and outside the classroom. But it's the student that takes those raw materials and turns them into a uniquely more mature and more educated person. In addition, when we talk about the premium that comes from college, it's the result of the degree. It's the result of the credential. And that's it. A diploma's value doesn't vary based on how many courses the student took from a professor that's not employed by that college or university. Once a student earns that piece of paper, that's it. It says that the student graduated and earned that degree from that college. Now, here's our agenda for the evening. First, I'll talk about how to earn college credits before you ever go off to college. Second, I'll show you some ways to get college paid for before you start college. Third, I'll show you some ways that students are already acquiring college credits from many more places than just the traditional college where they're officially enrolled. Fourth, I'll walk you through some of the ways that students are getting college paid for by someone else while they're enrolled. And fifth, I'll show you some ways for your student that you can get your college loans paid for by someone else after your student finishes their degree. There are so many ways to earn college credits before your student ever goes off to college. And once you have enough credits to graduate a semester early, you are talking about some real college savings. After a little more than 20 years, 88% of high schools in the United States now offer dual enrollment programs of some kind. When high school students take these courses, they earn college credits and high school credits simultaneously. Interestingly, only about a third of high school students take dual enrollment courses, even though most schools offer them. And especially since these courses are free, it would seem like more students ought to take advantage of what looks like a sort of a missed opportunity. The most recent data suggests that about 64% of students who took any dual enrollment courses in high school and then went on to four-year college graduate in 5 years. Now, that's a little bit higher than the national average of students who graduate overall. What is odd, though, is that there isn't enough evidence to indicate that these courses in high school are leading to early college graduation consistently. Perhaps, and I've seen this at schools that I've worked at, students don't realize that they have to be proactive in transferring those college credits from the community college where they got them to the destination college that they've now enrolled in. Evidence of dual enrollment on a high school transcript won't automatically trigger those college credits. Now, even if you don't have access to dual enrollment courses, most community colleges will actually allow high school students to take the entry-level courses at the community college. They might require a letter of recommendation from a counselor or a teacher, but they are by no means opposed to students who have not yet graduated from high school taking classes at their institutions. And the online courses have come a long way in a pretty short period of time. Today, not only do the community colleges offer online courses, but there are many third-party providers of online college-level courses that are already approved to transfer at hundreds of 2- and 4-year colleges and universities. The advantages of these options is that they're often self-paced, And so you can go as fast or as slow as you want. In addition, they are very low cost and often charge at a subscription rate. So you can take multiple courses at once and get through, or just get through one class very quickly. Now, these are all the different companies that are offering many of these online courses. And some of them you've probably heard of. But these courses are really well organized and they are available all year long. There are also several ways to test out of college courses. This works by scoring high enough on an exam to demonstrate that you already know the information that you would have learned in that course. Advanced placement is pretty well known. About 85% of high schools offer at least one AP course. There has been a small decline in the number of colleges and universities that accept AP test scores for college credit, but today, almost all colleges and universities will still give you college credit for a 3 or higher on an AP test. What's less well known is that students don't actually have to take the AP courses in order to take the exam, but the exam still costs money. A slightly less well-known means of testing out of college courses is the college level examination program, otherwise known as the CLEP tests. Interestingly, these tests are run by the same company that run AP, Advanced Placement, and it's called the College Board. I'd love to examine the AP tests and the CLEP tests because my bet is that many of the questions in both of those tests for the same course are probably quite similar. Now, there is a wonderful free resource called modernstates.org that has online courses designed by college professors and taught by college professors that you can take at your own pace that will prepare you for the CLEP tests. So the books, the resources, everything is free. And for qualifying students, Modern States will even pay for the cost of the exam. A little less well-known, but still a great option for testing out of college classes, is the DSST, the Dante's Subject Standardized Tests. It started as an option only available to U.S. military personnel, but in the past few decades, it's been opened up to the general public. Although not all the study material is free, one of them, EBSCO Learning, is available through most public libraries, and all you have to have is a library card. And their cost to take in each exam is $100, similar to the other two. Solving the cost problem of higher education can also be done by increasing the amount of money that you have to pay for college before you go. There are several ways to do that, and some of these options can pay off very well. Probably the most efficient way to get college paid for by someone else is to join the military. To get access to GI Bill funding, a person has to serve for a minimum of 2 years of active service, and that's after basic and advanced training, and not be dishonorably discharged. After their term concludes, the military will pay for tuition and fees at any public in-state university, or up to about $27,000 in tuition and fees at private colleges for up to 36 months. They also pay about $1,000 a month in a room and board stipend. Maybe the biggest misconception that people have about joining the military is that it's all about training to fight, marching in formation, and wearing khakis or camouflage. But the truth is that there are thousands of career paths in the military that vary about as much as the range of professions outside the military. So putting in a few years training in a profession that is similar or complementary to something that you want to do with your life, in exchange for getting all of your college paid for, seems worth serious consideration. Now, there is no rule that says you have to go to college right after high school. If you aren't ready for college, or you don't have any idea what you want to do in college, or if the only college options available to you require that you borrow a lot of money, then taking a year or two to work and explore some of your potential interests in order to narrow your focus might not be a bad idea. But no matter what you do, if you do this right, you are not taking time off. You're not taking time off from life. You are always learning, whether you're solidifying bad habits or creating new knowledge. If you do this right, the idea of taking some time to work, you will develop some incredibly important skills that are not necessarily skills that you would naturally develop in a traditional college setting. And there's a chance, maybe a very good chance, that your employer might offer some benefits that will come in very handy. More on that in a second. The last thing I want to mention is the idea of apprenticeships. For a very long time, the stereotype of the apprenticeship was that it was something that you did in manual labor trades like construction or welding or plumbing. But in the last decade, the apprenticeship as a unique pathway into a much wider range of professions has grown dramatically. And in recent years, federal and state government investments into programs and third-party facilitating organizations has really led to a rebirth of the apprenticeship. This has become particularly true in IT fields, information technology fields, like cybersecurity, for example, where the demand is way ahead of what educational institutions can produce. Now, the old school idea about college is that you go to one place and you get every ounce of your learning from that one place. It also sort of assumes that outside of that one place, kind of a desert, or just wilderness. At one time, with that assumption, it was very common for colleges and universities to look skeptically on any request to give a student credit for learning something anywhere else. But thankfully, those days are vanishing quickly. This isn't a new idea, but it's still something that far more students ought to consider. Plan to finish college a semester early by taking a semester's worth of general education courses in the summer at a local community college. In addition, almost everyone has a class that they would have been more successful at if it had been the only class they were taking at that time. Now, you have to plan and you have to work with your college's academic advising and sometimes your registrar's office. But this is well within reach for most students in most majors. And when you graduate a semester early, you're talking about easily $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Today, you can go far beyond the confines of your local community college. Arizona State University, Southern New Hampshire University, Purdue Global, Maryland Global, Western Governors University. There are so many institutions that offer good online courses. And remember all of those independent options? There's no reason that a student who needs to save money on college can't take 4 to 5 courses that they find elsewhere, transfer into their traditional college, and save a semester's worth of tuition, maybe a full year. Now, getting college paid for while you go might seem like it's the hardest thing to do if you aren't a big-time college athlete. But as you might have noticed through the rest of this presentation, there are a wide range of options that most people don't know of or even consider. Let's start with a combination of school and work that sometimes we take for granted. This might not be the preferred option, but millions of students do this every year. And there's a silver lining to this combination that isn't talked about enough. First, for students who are unsure of their interests or possible career directions, this is a great way to explore without spending so much money. The other reason why this combination is potentially very beneficial is that the work experience and the course work that is adjacent or complementary to each other, the student can learn something about being what's called an integrative learner, which means learning how to apply things learned in one environment into another environment. This is a skill that colleges don't always teach well, but the research on college students that are successful finds that this is one of the most powerful ways to learn. So for a young person to develop that skill at the early stage of their college journey, maybe even before they go to college, that can really make them stand out later. Remember when I hinted at the potential benefits available from an employer? Now, this is a hidden gem. About half of all medium and larger companies in the US offer a tuition reimbursement or assistance program through their benefits package. Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, Pepsi, Walmart, Amazon, Target, Disney, Bank of America, Home Depot. You can name off now hundreds of companies that you've all heard of and you see right there in your own community that offer this package, this benefit to all employees. And many of them offer this benefit package to both full-time and part-time employees, sorry. And some of them make it available the moment you start working at that company. This is the kind of opportunity that once you try it, you might continue all the way through college and do your whole degree this way. Now, many of these programs are supported by a third-party organizing company. And that organizing company sometimes will help with tutors, with help with other kinds of student support, will help with advising. Some of these programs even pay for all of your books. Now, many of the courses are offered through online companies, but sometimes they're also in person that you can take at your local community college or four-year college. Not to be outdone, there are colleges that have for over a century organized themselves so that they are something like the mirror image of the company that pays for your college. Work colleges are where every student works, and their job helps pay part or all of the costs of attending that institution. There is a work college in Southern California called Deep Springs, and the students that work there go to school there. In the afternoons, they're studying Greek philosophy, they're studying literature, they're studying whatever it is they're studying. And in the mornings, they run a cattle ranch. That's their work. And there's about 10 of these around the country. You have to actually qualify with the federal government to have this designation. And this is another way to have school paid for. And finally, if you think it might be possible that you will end up having to borrow to pay for some of your college degree, despite taking advantage of some of the DIY college options I've already mentioned, there's one more option, and that's getting someone else to pay off your loans. Because believe it or not, there are a number of ways to make that happen. The federal loan forgiveness program has been around for a long time. In essence, if you work in a wide range of public service roles, if you're in teaching, if you work in a nonprofit, if you're in a medical field, after 10 years of paying make your loan payments, you can apply to have the remainder of your loans forgiven. Now, this program has had some problems over the past decades, mostly because when the government farmed out the loan servicing work, meaning the companies that would collect your monthly payments and answer your questions, the government created an incentive system for those companies that kind of discouraged those companies from helping people get their loans forgiven. But in the last few years, this program has been revised, and it appears that it will function much more effectively than it has in the past. This is particularly true with the income-driven repayment plan that the government set up just last year, where your loan payments, the size of your loan payments, the amount you pay, is directly tied to your income. So if your income goes down, the size of your loan payment goes down. If your income goes up, the size of your loan payment goes up, but it's in proportion to your total income. But honestly, most student loan repayment plans are supposed to be completed in 10 years. So forgiveness of what remains doesn't seem that great. At least it doesn't seem like a lot. But by contrast, there are a whole bunch of state-level loan forgiveness programs that have emerged in recent decades, and sometimes they're sort of hard to believe that they're true. Now, they don't apply in all professions, but almost every single state has one for students who are going into any kind of medical field. And I'm not talking about going and being a doctor and going to med school first. I'm just talking about a medical field after you graduate with your bachelor's degree. So if you're in nursing, if you're in a physician's assistant role, if you went to community college to be a dental hygienist, there's a whole series of roles that are part of the medical profession, and that every state has trouble finding enough people to do those roles, to take those jobs in rural communities. So the states have created programs where you go and take one of those jobs and you work in a small town or a rural community, work for 2 to 5 years, depending on the state, and you can get up to $50,000 of student loans paid off. Now, just recently, I actually saw one program that's now will pay off up to $100,000 in student loans. And all you have to do is work in that profession in a part of the state where they need people to take these jobs. That would pay off a big chunk of student loans. There are many states that have these programs in education professions for teaching, and there are some states that have them in some legal professions. And again, I'm not talking about graduate programs. Those programs exist too, and those loan forgiveness programs are even bigger for doctors or lawyers. But if you wanted to be a court reporter, for example, just got a job after doing an associate's degree as a court reporter, there are programs for that too across the country. Not to be outdone, the military also has some very attractive loan forgiveness programs. Let's say you started college, went for a couple years, maybe just didn't fit for you, or maybe something else came up that required that you to step away from school for a while. You have some loans, you don't have the degree yet. you can join the military and they will help to pay back those loans for you. You don't have to have graduated from college to access those programs. It requires a 3-year term of service. And one of the cool things is that some of those programs can actually forgive PLUS loans as well, the loans that parents would take out for their kids' schooling. Another hidden gem, and again, this is in the world of employee benefits. Believe it or not, more and more companies are offering some kind of student loan forgiveness program or student loan assistance program as a part of their benefits package or their compensation package, right alongside of 401k and health insurance. This is something that you can ask about when you start your college search. When you start your job search after college. And you can even use it as a sort of negotiating ploy. And yes, we talked about negotiating last time in the last webinar. Probably a good skill to develop because you're going to need that when you negotiate your first compensation package. Now, I've thrown a lot of information at you, that different ways to make college less expensive, whether it's earning credits for free while you're in high school, or getting them at a fraction of the cost, or getting some other entity to pay for your school. And I imagine, though, that it's kind of hard to put all that together in your own head. So what I did was I wanted to map out a couple of case studies where we combine some of these strategies and show you how you could DIY a lot of college. There's trade-offs with every one of these. I'm not suggesting that every student should automatically do this, but I just want to show you how doable this really is. Here's an example of how a student might put some of these options together to pursue a career in public health. So first, you get a couple of college courses out of the way while in high school. College biology, public health course, maybe a general education requirement or two, psychology, sociology. Second, enlist for a stint in the military, specifically to train in a health-related field, maybe a public health. The military actually has a career path for you to be in the public health field, where you're educating other members of the military on public health issues. Third, while you're working in the military, you take some courses part-time. And of course, the military will pay for those courses. And then when you finish, you take your GI Bill and the money from that and use that to fund the rest of your 4 years in college, which at this point, far less than 4 years. In fact, now you have some money left over from the GI Bill that you can use for a master's degree. And you can spend some of that GI Bill on that master's degree, and with the rest of it, you can borrow to finish that master's degree in the health-related field. And then finally, take a position in a rural community, work for a couple of years, and those loans are forgiven by a state-based program. All of that, all the way through to a master's degree, paid for by somebody else. Now let's look at another case study. A student who wants a career in business. First, take an intro to business course through one of the online providers and get college credit for it. Coursera's got a wonderful one. Straighterline's got a good one. Outlier's got several. Then second, graduate from high school and take a job at Target or Marriott hotel chains, another company that provides a wonderful tuition assistance program. And use their tuition assistance program to take several years of courses while you're working and earning money and saving up so that then you can complete your bachelor's degree in business at a local public university. Then negotiate with your first employer for some student loan repayment assistance and use that company's tuition reimbursement program to get your MBA. Another way, bundle together resources that are already out there and do an entire college degree. Finally, let's look at one more case study for a student who wants to get into the tech field. Something to do with computers, coding, and software or hardware. Right out of high school, take a job, and while you're working, complete the Coursera Google IT certificate. Now, Google is one of the companies that has led the way in saying, we're not requiring a college degree to hire somebody for Google. You just have to be able to show that you can do the stuff that we need you to be able to do, and you know the stuff we need you to know. So Google worked with Coursera to build the certificate. Then once you've got that certificate, get an apprenticeship in cybersecurity, and you would be blown away at how many apprenticeships in cybersecurity there are, and then how many of those apprenticeships are remote. Very much, I'm sure, a function of the pandemic, but hundreds of apprenticeships in cybersecurity working remotely. Now, while you're doing that apprenticeship, and while you're learning and getting paid, take online courses through an independent provider while you're working, and then transfer all these courses to Arizona State University and complete the bachelor's degree online in computer science. You can do this while you're working in cybersecurity, or you can go full-time. Either way, it's a fraction of the cost. And then, if you had to borrow any to pay for it, there are cybersecurity jobs throughout the US military and the US government, and most of those jobs are civilian positions that are under the military umbrella. And you can be a civilian, take one of those positions, and get access to the military's loan forgiveness program. And again, you've done all of this on somebody else's dime. So the biggest thing that I want to communicate here is that the question isn't if you can find a way to afford taking college courses and getting a post-secondary degree of some kind. The question is just how. There are trade-offs, and not every option is best for everybody, but many of you can take advantage of little bits and pieces of this to reduce your college costs and make getting a college degree affordable, minimize or eliminate debt, and take advantage of the opportunities that a college degree provides. Okay. I knew I threw a lot at you, but I think that that was some pretty useful stuff that you can employ, but I'm sure that there are some questions. So I want to thank NextGen Personal Finance and everybody at Castro Valley High School for enabling this webinar series. But I want to open it up for questions. We've got, 20 minutes or so. And you may have questions about this. You may also have questions about something else we've talked about. You may be enjoying, quote unquote, FAFSA confusion. You have questions about that. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have. Go ahead and type your questions into the chat, and we'll go ahead and answer them, as many as we can. And Maddie, if there are questions that come up in your world, regularly in your conversations with students and you think they might be beneficial to talk about here, please feel free to jump right in. So if you have any questions about anything that we just talked about, or if you have questions about anything else you're dealing with right now with the FAFSA, with finding out that you aren't going to get financial aid offer letters for a little while yet, any part of the process, I'm glad to answer any questions that you have. Just go ahead and put them in the chat. One thing I'll add too is this is recorded, so you can go back and re-listen to this if you need to, or share it with others from your community that you think would benefit from this webinar, or any of the webinars that we've done actually. So if there aren't any other questions, I'm fine with that. It's entirely up to everybody. I'm imagining that you all still have a little bit of sunlight out there, and it's kind of nice to be out. Is it particularly like spring warm now, Maddie, where you are?
We're having a particularly warm stretch of the past few days. We got to, I was in Merced today and we were in the mid 80s over there.
Wow. All right. Well, that's a long ways from Iowa. We still are going back to the 50s, so I am jealous. But thank you very much. And Maddie, thank you again for all your help with this. You're a champ. I'm a huge fan.
Oh, Mark, same. Thank you so much.
And if there's anything that folks need that are additional questions that the team at Castro Valley doesn't have, whatever, feel free to reach out to me. But it's been a real pleasure doing this series for y'all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. We really appreciate having you, and keep me posted on next year's webinars, because I think this will be something we'll definitely want to do again.
Awesome. Great. Well, everybody have a wonderful spring. Thanks again to our interpreters, Leanne, Carly, Sean. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. And good night, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.